So Gloria is asking, in Genesis 1:26-28, God created mankind in his image. He created male and female, blessed and sent them out to be fruitful and multiply on earth. If every one of God's years is 1,000 of ours, then when God made Adam and Eve, this was at least 1 to 2,000 years after the sixth day of creation, when he made mankind in his image. Question. So Jesus/Eve were the generations for Jesus, and the other people had already multiplying on the earth, right? Or am I wrong? Help. Okay. Someone clarify for me this question first, because I'm not fully following what it's saying.
So
I think to try.
Oh, sorry.
Maybe I could wrap up the question sort of, and then Tina can answer it. So there are some verses that, say to God, as they said, 1,000 years is like a day to God, and the day is like 1,000. And then what they're trying to do then is say how in creation it talks about days. Well, therefore, let's apply the 1,000-year principle to those days, and God created the earth over thousands of years. Tina, is that right?
Yeah, that's kind of what I understood too. So Gloria, I think you kind of have a little bit of your time frame a little bit mixed up. So, and I understand, because the Bible, not all of the pieces are in perfect chronological order all the time. So it's easy to get confused. So I want you to know you're not the only one. But so the first I think you're thinking of that says, that 1,000 years or 1,000 years for us is like a day with God. And that's 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 8. It says, so basically Peter is saying, beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day with the Lord is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day. So basically what Peter is saying, though, in the context of what he's saying, though, is, the coming of Christ, and that, that Jesus is going to come. And because a lot of people, he says, in the last days are going to be scoffers. They're going to say, oh, where's the promise of his coming? Jesus isn't coming. Everything just continuing. But Peter's saying, no, because time for us is very different as far as the perspective is time for God, because God is eternal. So for us, 1,000 years is a long time, but for God, that's like a day. It's like not a very long period of time. So that's really what the verse means. That's what the verse is talking about. But when it comes to the 6 days of creation, if you go back to Genesis chapter 1, and you look at verses 26-28, where God says he made them male and female, I want you to look at verse 31, where basically it says that, and so the evening and the morning were the sixth day. So Adam and Eve were made on the sixth day. And the reason the Bible actually makes it very clear that this is a day, like our day, like a 24-hour period. It says, and the evening and the morning. So there's no 1,000 years of the sun rising and setting, and coming up. So basically, and
it repeated that for every single day of creation.
Yes, exactly. God repeated it every single day. And so the Bible is very, very clear that this is a 24-hour period. It's a literal 6-day period that God made everything. So like day 1, he made light. Day 2, he made the firmament. Day 3, he made the land, and he separated the water and made vegetation. Day 4, he made the sun, moon, and stars. And day 5, he made, the fish and the birds. And day 6, he made all the animals. And then last, he made Adam and then made Eve. And so after that, on this 6th day, he was done. The crowning act of his creation was creating Adam and Eve. And then the 7th day, he rested. And God reiterates that this is a 6-day week, or 6-day thing with a 7-day week in the fourth commandment in Exodus chapter 20, verses 8 through 11, where it says, for in 6 days God made heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day. God didn't rest for 1,000 years. It was just a literal 7-day week that for 6 days God created, the 7th day he rested, and that's why that day is blessed. Because
and then the same time, he's not asking for us to rest 1,000 years in that in that same. So you have to apply the same meaning for that same day. So God rested 7 days, wants us to rest a day. It's got to mean the same thing. It can't be 1,000 years for one and then just 124 hours the other.
We don't get to rest for 1,000 years.
Well, maybe Tina would like to answer that one. There is 1,000 years rest.
Exactly. Well, and a lot of people like say, well, maybe this kind of reflects like the week of redemption in a way, that 6,000 years. We have basically the mess that we're in here on earth, and once that 6,000 years is done, we have that 1,000 years is like the seventh day or whatever, which is 1,000 years of the millennium that you read about in Revelation chapter 21. And so, anyways, but that's another whole nother topic. But Gloria, I just want you to know it's very easy to be confused. But basically, it's at the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And then the first 6 days he made everything. And that was, all the world. The sixth day he made Adam and Eve. And sometime after that, we don't know exactly when, but at some point, Adam and Eve sinned. And then it was almost 4,000 years later that Jesus came into the world. And that's why when you look at his genealogy, like in Matthew chapter 1, you see from Adam to Jesus, there's many, many generations of people. So that's the time frame that we're looking at. And then 2,000 years ago is when Jesus came. So Adam and Eve created on the sixth day of creation. 4,000 years later, Jesus comes, lives and dies for our salvation, and goes back to heaven. And then it's been about 2,000 years since Jesus did that, and we're waiting for his soon return. So I hope that clarifies things for you, Gloria. And I hope you know that it's okay to be confused. But I'm just grateful that God created everything in 6 literal days, not thousands and thousands of years, because God can literally speak and things exist. And so that's the mighty and powerful God that we serve. Jay or Wendy, do you have any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I just add, I think a lot of people get confused where the Bible talks about how Cain killed Abel and then proceeded to go marry a woman and go start a city. And then they think, there should have been then tons of people that already existed when Adam and Eve left Eden. But no, it forgets that there still could be a huge amount of time, hundreds of years, between Genesis 3 and Genesis 4, where we have the Cain and Abel story. Mm-hmm. And are we going to assume that, Adam and Eve had no kids for 100 years? Or even, during that time that they only had Cain and Abel? No, They probably kept cranking them out. Jesus said, be fruitful and multiply. These were the most healthiest humans that ever lived. They were probably extremely fertile. Maybe they even had twins and triplets at times. Who knows, right? Exactly. Anything was possible. So they could have very quickly populated the earth just between the two of them. And then Cain would have a sister, marries his sister. And then, again, they produce a huge family and have a city. So these things don't defy imagination. They are very realistic. The Bible should in many ways be taken literally when it's trying to give us literal history as it is in Genesis.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's very important that we don't forget that. And I think, Gloria, it's important that, that 1,000 years, to God, that can be kind of confusing, but I think that's such an important chapter that you're reading in 2 Peter chapter 3, because it talks about, in the last days, there'll be scoffers saying, where's the promise of his coming? For since our fathers have fallen asleep, all things continue as they were. And it says, but these are willingly ignorant of how God created the earth and how the world was in the waters and on the waters. And there's so many things that God has, as far as scientifically in the Bible that show his creative power, that show that the creation story is credible and something we can believe in, but you have to study it. You have to learn about those truths. And I think that's so important that as we look at the Bible, it is a literal history book. We can look to it for history. And I think some people have tried to mix, secular scientific theories with the Bible. And I think that's very dangerous. We really need to look at the Bible and the Bible only as a source of truth. And when you do that, I think you see things in a new light, and I think you see things in the right way.
Yeah, I think that's very important. If we try to take our modern understanding of the world and try to work backwards and make the Bible fit that, we're going to have a lot of problems. We need to start with, okay, what is the Bible saying, and how can we apply that into our modern understanding?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.